Hello, citizens of Salina. We are here to honor and to welcome the Superintendent of Schools of District 305, Dr. Hardy. Thank you so much for being here to talk to the entire community about what is so important to this community, and that is education. And that's one good thing about Salina. We do know that, I think. I think we know that.
That is no doubt. That is true. Salina is a community that supports its public schools.
There are many topics that I know you want to cover today. So let's start with the first one on the table, and that is the search for the new superintendent.
Yeah, that's a question I get asked a lot about because people say, don't we have a superintendent already?
Yes, we do.
And I said, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So the school board, of course, hired me with a 1 or 2 year commitment to try and help transition. And at the end of the second year, I think we'll be in great shape. And so the process has started. The great thing about our school district is that it recognizes it's a community school district.
Right.
And we're so vested and we're so connected that our community will have an important part and important role in that. There will be forums and feedback committees.
Oh,
and
that's good to know.
Right, and our community members can be a part of that if they wish.
That's good. Good to know. So how long does something like this take?
That's a good question. So right now the Board of Education is setting up the forums. They'll be taking place over the next couple months, probably a little bit into December, maybe, possibly. And then what will happen is the position's already listed, so we're already getting some contacts.
Okay.
Of course, this is a wonderful position. It's a fantastic school district, so it's one that people would like to be a part of. And I'm one of the biggest champions for that. I tell people it is. And so what will happen is applications will start coming in, and they'll come in probably till the end of December.
Okay.
At the very beginning of January, the board will start looking at the applications. What happens is this feedback and the committees and the forums that we're trying to get from the community and the staff, all different facets of our community, all that information is brought together. And if you see some threads that are going through that people want in their next superintendent, when they look at the applications, they'll be measured by that. So when Salina is asked, what would you like to see in your next superintendent, those are the kind of attributes that will show up that they will use to determine who gets to be considered.
See, I don't think most citizens were aware of that set of criteria that involves the community itself in helping to set guidelines for that choice. That's new information, at least for me.
Well, I think that's really a compliment to our Board of Education.
Yes.
You know, that our board recognizes that important connection and that we are a community school district. And you talk about, you know, our parents, our grandparents, aunts and uncles, all those folks that have kids in school, you know, they deserve a right to have an opinion as well.
In a town of this size, a healthy community of 50,000, a community school district, as you mentioned, how do we market the position? What do we do? You said the name is out there. How do we let the nation know?
Well, that's a good question. So that's the Kansas Association of School Boards is the search organization. So of course they're listed in Kansas, and they listed across the nation on all the major sites. And they'll give general information, and then what will happen is people that are interested, they'll call Kansas Association of School Boards, KASB, asking questions, and KASB can help. And then some of them will call the superintendent, the sitting superintendent, and ask questions. And the great thing about that is I have to be careful.
Yes.
Because I will be bragging, because this is such a wonderful community and an amazing, I would say, a premier school district, that I can say, here's as a superintendent, here's the great things. You've got amazing schools, that the community has blessed us with fantastic facilities, that you will never get any more support than you will in Salina for the schools. The business community, all the nonprofits, this is a very giving community.
Yes.
And so I talk about we have a great school board. Wow, we have an awesome Board of Education.
And they care. They really do care. I know most of the people on the board, they are caring citizens who want to do a good job on behalf of the community. Let's just use that one comment about you're saying this is a terrific school district. Give us just a little wrap up again of your background coming in to be interim.
Okay, thank you. So I was of course, a teacher and a coach and a principal. We're Kansans, so we wanted to see Kansas, and my wife is a Kansan. Actually, I was born in Fort Benning, Georgia, but I came here through the military. Married a Kansas girl, and she was pretty clear we weren't leaving Kansas. And so we really consider ourselves Kansans first. And so as a superintendent in 2 other school districts, I brought that experience of a 36 or 37-year experience to the community, and I think that's what the board was looking for.
Is it inappropriate for me to ask if you are considering becoming a candidate? Is that inappropriate for me? If it is, tell me to be quiet.
I get asked all the time.
All right.
And it's nothing about Salina. I have fallen in love with Salina, and the school district is just amazing. I just happen to have a wife that still likes me after 40 years. And she
you're very fortunate.
And she tells me over and over, she goes, now it's my turn. It's my turn to be first in your life instead of second or third or fourth.
Okay.
So, and I think that's what that's about. And the board has been so gracious. Wow, and the community has too. They ask me the same thing, and I always have to say that, I wish I'd found Salina earlier in my career.
Right.
That's probably about the best answer I could give, because this position, I can say with a clear conscience, is the epitome of my professional career.
Well, if you and your wife are planning to spend some quality time doing other things, rather than coming into a full superintendency for the next 15 or 20 years, good for you.
Thank you.
It's important to do that.
Thank
I can say that as a widow of a wonderful man who I forced to travel with me, and he complained a lot, but we had a wonderful time wherever we went. Getting back to the district itself, you mentioned right before we went on the air about this being the completion now of the entire tax funding of all the improvements. Tell us a little bit about the completion of every school.
Well, here's what I would say to our community. Job well done. The community wanted quality schools. They wanted quality facilities that will last a long time. They want their students, their grandkids, their nephews and nieces to go to schools where they feel comfortable, where they enjoy it, when they step in each day, that is their school. And that's what we've ended up with. The facilities are beautiful, they're wonderful. They support the curriculum. I would say that's probably facilities are important.
Yes,
and
yes,
when people drive through Salina and they want to come look at the school district, because that's what a lot of people look to when they move to a new community, they can drive by our schools and say, wow, this is a community that cares about their schools. But what the schools have opened up for curriculum is amazing. If you don't have it yet, I would encourage you to get to South or Central High. Those are what modern high schools look like.
I am pleased to let you know that I've had a personal tour of Central and a walkthrough at South, and indeed it is impressive. My darling niece from California is visiting today, and my daughter over at Central is giving them a tour of Central today because she graduated from Central High School. And I got a phone call just before I came down to the station, and it was my niece, and she said, oh my gosh, Aunt Ann, it is just a beautiful facility. Very, very, very impressive. And speaking of the curriculum, can you tell us about this trend, which those of us who are just good lay citizens believe is a good trend, about career and technical education that is enveloping, I think, all public school systems nationwide. But tell us about what's happening in 305.
I think that is probably the most important thing that we're talking about. It does start all the way in the elementary.
Yes.
With good math and good reading. The amazing thing is that kindergartners are reading by the end of their first year, which is phenomenal.
I know.
And it builds and builds through elementary with those awesome teachers working hard. It gets to middle school where they start branching out a little bit more. They start doing a little bit of research into different careers in 8th grade especially. And then when you get to the high school, we have our pathways. And this is where the beauty is of what we've done with our high schools. So if you're a student, we're working on this one thing. 71% of all jobs will require some type of a industry recognized certificate, a license, or a college degree. 71%.
Okay.
And the other thing that is kind of interesting about this is the college dropout rate is over 50%.
I didn't realize that was that high.
Isn't that scary?
Oh my God, that is scary.
So we don't want our students to be part of that 50%.
No.
So what we've done here in Salina, we've really got into the pathways and the career technical ed. So if you're a student, let's say that you are interested in medicine of some type, because, you know, sometimes it's mom and dad saying, you need
That's
to go you need to go in medicine.
That's true.
So you start in medicine and our health pathway.
Yes.
You take the preliminary courses and you say, you know, I'm going to look at this nursing thing. And you get to do some internships. Actually go to the hospital and do internships. And a lot of our students, it's the things that solidifies their wanting to be in the healthcare profession. They go, I love this. This is what I want to do. And then when they leave us, they have a CNA degree or a license already. They go to college and they are so sure that this is what they want to do. There's no doubt. So they won't be part of that 50% dropout. They'll be part of the 71%. And
that follow through.
Yeah. And the student who goes on that pathway and they do that internship and they go, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be.
This isn't for me.
No, not for me. And those are the ones, so they've made a good choice. And they've learned before they go to college and start meandering through with the major, they don't know what they want. Then they change their major, and then they change their major again, and it's a mess.
Well, Dr. Hardy, you've explained the Pathways program really, really well, but I'm curious as to how this community has embraced that direction and how has the school district worked with businesses and other learning institutions of higher learning maybe in the community to go this direction?
I think that is one of the power of our community. That's one of the most impressive things. So our students, they have a chance to do internships in the community.
Okay.
So they can find out if that pathway is something they really want to do. The other thing is, and I think, I'm not sure people remember this or not, most of the pathways or many of the pathways the community helped us choose them.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
In education, we have some things, you know, we think, oh, this might be a great career path. And then the community says, well, actually, that one's drying up. You don't want your students going that direction.
Okay.
So our community helped us choose some of the pathways, knowing that what the future jobs are going to be. And then, like you said, the internships in our community.
Yes.
So the students get to go out and they get to learn firsthand. And it really either solidifies that they want to do it, or it's like, oh, I don't want to touch that one.
And then those students can plan even more effectively with instructors and counseling as to what choices they might want to make to go on to further their education or just to further their training somewhere.
Exactly. So each of our high schools has a career and technical education counselor.
Okay.
That is their mission.
Okay.
And they spend a lot of time with students, you know, trying to find what their interests are. They gauge their interests. They give the students an opportunity to try some different things. They go to job sites and see if that's what they want to do. So that's a big deal, I think, is that our community has so much involvement in it. It's part of that connection again.
I believe you must be very, very accurate on that. And I am so hopeful that that has enthused more young people to be interested and to know that there is some good future occupation and vision and goals for them to chart for themselves because of that wonderful preparation that they've received in the school district.
Yeah, we even have pathways for teachers, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
It's part of our public service pathway. So I go to visit with those students and I tell them this is like the golden age of education right now. With what we're doing with career and technical education, the curriculums that we have at our elementary, our math curriculum is amazing with the elementary. It cracks the code on math. For us history majors, it makes math real and easy to understand. So we're doing all these great things. Our teachers, you know, they have an opportunity to teach and be connected with the students. It's not just the teachers versus the students.
Right, they were learning together.
Yes, it's together.
Yeah.
It's an impressive, like I said, it's an impressive time to be in education.
Does that have anything to do with the fact that I can't help my 16-year-old grandson with math? I don't even understand what they're talking about.
No, but
they have broken the code, you see.
Yeah. If you had them in elementary, you would go, this makes sense. I sit in some elementary classrooms. To see a kindergarten or first grader doing algebra is pretty amazing.
It is dumbfounding to me. And I think it's wonderful, by the way. Does that have anything to do with the term Kansas Can?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
Kansas Can, the goal, and I don't think you can get any higher than this, Kansas will lead the world in successful students.
Please go on.
Yeah, where can you go from there? And it's several different parts. The first thing is social emotional.
Okay.
That we know our students need to be socially and emotionally ready to learn, and so we've hired more counselors and social workers. The other thing is kindergarten readiness. You know, we mentioned that kindergartners can read at the end of kindergarten. So kids coming into kindergarten need to be ready. They need to have a successful preschool experience. A successful preschool experience helps them to be ready.
Yes.
If not, it's scary to think that a 5-year-old can already be behind.
It is pretty scary to think that.
So we have kindergarten readiness, we have our graduation rate, and that's another thing I would share about this, and I'm kind of passionate about this. Graduation is a great day.
Yes.
But it's a benchmark, it's not the end.
Yes.
It's a benchmark into bigger and better things.
It's another beginning.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And then the last thing we talked about was post-high school success.
Yes.
So we're being held accountable. When students leave our doors, we follow them for 2 or 3 years. If they've dropped out of college, then we might have missed something someplace. Or if our students aren't in a tech school,
right,
or if they don't have a license of some type as a plumbing, electrical, whatever it might be, then we've missed the mark someplace. So we are really pushing hard for that.
You know, when we talked a few months ago, you were talking about graduation rates, and I believe you had said at that point that this new focus on giving students something to get excited about and to know that they can accomplish is already beginning to affect our graduation rates in 305. Am I correct in that memory?
I think you're right. I believe you're right. Our numbers are, they're going to start creeping up a little bit because, remember when you were in school, you took English and social studies and math, and you took it because somebody told you you had to.
Right.
And they said, it's going to help you someday. Well, when you're sitting in class and you're stuck in Algebra 2 and you think you're speaking Greek, you just can't get it.
That's true.
But now, if you're in a pathway and you can go, so if I do this pathway, it's going to set me up for the rest of my life with a good career. And that makes perfectly good sense. So that's the power of what we're doing in schools nowadays.
That is so refreshing. It should make all of us in this community excited about our future as a community because of this. And in light of that, the segue may be awkward, but a lot of this also has to do with the election that's coming up. And I think November 6th is such an important date for all of us. Mm-hmm. Would you like to make any comment on what is important for us to consider before we go to the polls?
Well, of course, we're all about education.
I know.
So we want people to look at folks that would, support public education. But really, I think the main thing is we need to set the example for our students.
Yes, we do.
And we need to get out and vote. Parents, grandparents, whoever it might be, our community members, we're the ones who set the example. And in Kansas, we're a wonderful state.
We have a wonderful history.
We do, and it gets right down that we know people. It's not like you're voting for somebody you've never seen in public or you've never had a chance to even say something to. It's different in Kansas. It's a very special place, so we should all be voting.
We should all be voting, and we do want to take into consideration voting for the ability to continue to fund public education in this state and in the Salina community. I don't believe that's too political a comment for me to make. In relation to all of this, we still hear on the news about once a week about breaches in school safety. Mm-hmm. So give us an overview again of what District 305 does to ensure the safest possible environment we can offer our students as they get up every morning and trudge off to school every day.
Well, our primary responsibility is a safe school and safety for our students. We do our monthly drills, we do fire drills, tornado drills. Now we do intruder alerts, we do lockdowns. Our elementary students know what this looks like. So those are really important things. The most powerful thing that we have, and I say this, and I would encourage people to go to our webpage, and I have a video on there where I talk about what we do. But I think the most powerful thing still is, even with our bond project, which has given us controlled entries in all our schools.
That's good for us to be reminded of.
Yes, it's controlled entries in all our schools, and we have direct communication from the Secretary's office if something happens. But it really comes down to students. Students, when they see something, they need to say something. When they see something on social media, they need to say something. They need to let us know, let parents know, community members, let somebody know. And I can give an example, quick example. Last spring, I was getting ready just to call it a night. And students know me, they follow me on social media. And a student tweeted out to me, Dr. Hardy, you might want to see this. And he had a screenshot of someone that made a threat at a school, SHS. And the student was very concerned.
Wow.
Well, because the students saw something, they said something, we immediately rallied ourselves together. We contacted the police department. They did some research, and it turned out to be a hoax from something in Illinois. So all the way there got to Kansas. But because the students said something,
Right.
we could deal with it and take care of it so there wouldn't be panic. So that is very, very powerful.
Has there been because of just the national environment on school safety, what kinds of preparation before the class year starts do teachers get?
That's a really good question too. Our teachers are trained. There's a program called ALICE.
Okay.
It's alert is the first one. And it gets all the way down to counter. That means let's just not sit in the rooms and let people come to us. If we can find a way safely out of the school, which is scary for us as educators because we want to know where all our students are.
Yes.
But if there's a threat in the school, lockdown is not always the best. Shelter in place isn't always the best if you can't get to a secure place.
Right.
So counter also means and evacuate. So it's okay to leave the building if you can find a safe way out. But that's new to us as educators because we want to know where our students are at all times. Shelter in place works if the door's locked and the lights are off because if there's an intruder, they'll just pass by that room. But we spend a lot of time on this and we do several drills a year.
That's good to know. I think citizens who are just reading the newspaper are more relaxed knowing that our own school district here in Salina is taking those kinds of steps to make sure that we're safe. You've had quite a tenure here in the short time you've been with us in this community. I wonder if you could spend a moment or two telling us about what you think, maybe just in summary of some of the things we've mentioned today, accomplishments that you've seen the district make forward, the strides forward that we've made, and maybe a couple of comments on challenges.
Well, I appreciate that. Of course the facilities, but the facilities lends itself to the academic side.
Yes.
And it's a little bit of, how do I say, I don't want to say I'm bragging too much, but I just will. That I brag about the academic side of what's happening in Salina. So that's the big thing. And the facilities are wonderful. There's so many great things going on. One thing that started as a challenge that turned out to be a real plus is our Equity Council.
Tell us about that.
The Equity Council, Salina has its diversity. And when I go out to our teachers and I talk about Equity Council, I say I believe that every person in this room, and I think I would say this in Salina, believes that every single student should have a full and successful experience in USD 305. Every single student. No student should be expendable. And so the Equity Council, that's part of our effort. An example would be if you're a student and you walk by an organization and the organization has maybe 30 students and you walk by there and none of those students look like you don't think it's something that you can belong to. That's what Equity Council is all about, making sure all of our students feel included, that they all have the same opportunities, that they come to school feeling valued. And we feel, when I talk to our teachers, they all believe that too. The difference is the Equity Council, that's what it does. That's its main job.
I think that's wonderful information for this community to be aware of. I was not aware of that. I don't think I've been the only one in Salina that might not be aware of that. So I'm so glad that's happening.
Thank you.
Any challenges that we are preparing to face that you have become aware of as you have been the superintendent for our district? I believe probably the biggest challenge and I'll just put it out there for us in Salina, we know that every one of our students is important. And the pressure that we put on ourselves to make sure every student is successful, that's the challenge. We have students that come to us that aren't necessarily ready to learn. Right.
That takes a lot of work.
Right.
And for whatever reason, why they're coming to school that they're not prepared, that takes a lot of our time and resources. But again, I think some of that is back in the day, those students, we would just say, well, they're not capable.
Right.
Or they're just going to drop out anyways, why should we try? But we don't believe that. Every student needs to be successful in Salina, and every student needs to be supporting, working, being good citizens, getting involved in our political process, being members of our community and supporting the community.
That really is the future for all of us, isn't it? For this country, for this state, and for this community. Dr. Hardy, I thank you so much for spending time talking to the community, letting us know the wonderful strides that are being taken in education, why it's important for us to support our public education institutions, K through 12. It's so very important. Any last words you'd like to leave with us today?
Probably the final thing I would say, what a beautiful community, what a neat community. I think the future of this community is so bright. You know, I talk to economic development often.
Yes.
We work closely with the Chamber of Commerce, and you can't leave those meetings with just this feeling, wow, there are so many amazing things going on here. Recruiting a new superintendent is like the sky's the limit. We'll show them the downtown, we'll talk about the river project, we'll show them the awesome schools, and it'll be hard to say no here.
Salina has benefited greatly from your presence with us. And thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.